Butch Roussel fell in love with Lafayette later in life, but wanted to help make an impact in some way. That came in the form of Civic Side, a platform to connect citizens that had ideas to improve their city with key decision makers. That idea transitioned into the 24-hour Citizen Project, combining backers, experts, decision makers, and citizens in a fast-paced competition with the rest of the community cheering on. Stay tuned. This is Sheauxtime. Sheauxtime is a weekly podcast where I interview some of Acadiana's most inspiring and influential people. To stay up to date with release schedules, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, all under Sheauxtime Podcast. That, of course, is spelled the Cajun way, Sheaux Time Podcast. Also, if you'd like to sponsor this podcast, get in touch with me at SheauxtimePodcast@gmail.com. Again, Sheauxtime, spelled the Cajun way. And now, on to the interview. Did you grow up here? Are you from here?
I didn't. I did not grow up in Lafayette, though it does feel like home.
Yeah, how long have you been here?
Let's see. I moved here for a girl back in 2009 and never left. But I did come for college in 2002. So I started at University of Louisiana, moved away, and came back, and sort of been here ever since.
Gotcha. Where were you before that?
I was in Hammond, Louisiana.
That's where you're born and raised?
Born and raised.
Gotcha. So you're a Louisiana boy, just not a Lafayette.
Yeah.
But Lafayette now is your home.
Yeah, absolutely. And Hammond has it's sort of like Lafayette, and it's got like this small sense of community, you know, a level of openness.
I've heard the same about Houma. You know, it's kind of similar in that way.
Really?
Yeah, I had a friend who grew up there, and he, when he comes to Lafayette, he says that, you know, he feels a little bit Houma-esque, you know?
Yeah.
Which I don't know if it's an insult or a compliment, but I'll take it as a compliment.
Yeah.
Homey, you know, we'll say it feels like home.
Right.
So what made you fall in love with Lafayette then?
Oh, gosh. You know, I hate to sound like everyone else, but it's true. It's the people. And sort of the intangible thing that we call culture. You know, it's really hard to put our finger on culture. Yeah, you could call it Mardi Gras, you could call it events, you could call it music, you could call it art. But there's sort of this magic about this place that I love and was drawn to. And so here I am.
So what's different, though, if you can try and articulate it, about the people between Hammond and Lafayette? I mean, it's Louisiana. What really makes the difference?
Yeah. I think it's a level of openness. I feel like this is a place you can come to and get to know people very, very quickly. It's got a small town feel in that you go to hang out with your friends at a bar, and then all of a sudden, you know, you see your other circle of friends. But it also feels big enough where that doesn't get tired. And so that's what I love about the place. I mean, the people, they're servants in a sense. They want to cook for you. Grandma wants to cook for you. Mom wants to cook for you.
Oh yeah.
And so that's what I love. It's reflected in the Cajun goodbye. Do you know about the Cajun goodbye?
No.
You never had a Cajun? Well, you've probably had a Cajun goodbye. You just don't know what it is.
Oh, goodbye. I'm sorry.
Yeah, a Cajun goodbye.
Yeah, of course.
When we leave today, it's going to take us an extra 10 minutes.
For sure.
I'm going to walk you to the door. We're going to talk about some stuff. Then we're going to walk you to your car.
Absolutely.
And we're going to sit by your car door and talk for another 5 minutes before I hug you bye.
You know, it's funny. I saw that someone had posted a similar thing that happens in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I think that's a very, just those two friendly atmospheres. They're very similar. But yeah, it's well, never on time because we got to say goodbye for 20 minutes.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And that's totally okay.
Yeah, it is. That's the norm here.
Yeah.
In fact, if you showed up at your next place and said, sorry, I'm late, I was having a Cajun goodbye, they'd be like, oh, I understand. Of course.
I totally get it.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so you're very passionate about Lafayette and about its people, about what we can be, about what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. Why? Why are you so passionate about that?
You know, I would say my passion lies in activating citizens. I think that, you know, we talk about the word community a lot and what that means. And I think it's got a varying definition across the board. I mean, you talk to a lot of your leaders on this podcast, they probably tell you, you know, how they see the community. I see the community as an opportunity. where one of the biggest problems that we have is how do we get people to do the work? The way that we build communities now, and it's to no fault of our own, but we build communities with barriers, right?
Right.
So if you look in my backyard, there's a fence, right? I sit at a red light in my car, and you pull up to the car next to you, and it's sort of a game like, I don't want to look at this guy next to me because it's a little bit uncomfortable.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Whereas you're riding your bike downtown and you're stopped at a red light and you see another cyclist right next to you, you're going to start up a conversation. And so I feel that communities are at risk in a sense because we're activated in ways through social media, through technology, which has been a great thing, right? Technology has solved so many economic problems, but it's a risk to our communities in a way.
Interesting.
So think about my neighborhood group, right?
Mm-hmm.
The neighborhood group. This is Oak Lawn Heights,
Right.
This is a neighborhood group, and there's over 1,000 people on the neighborhood group. We solve problems. We talk about safety. There's tons of things that the neighborhood group does, right, in terms of communication. But what if I invited someone over to my house for dinner? It would all of a sudden become uncomfortable.
Right.
Right? And so technology has its limitations. And so how do we break down those barriers that we've created to make ourselves safe and comfortable? And so that's really where my passion lies. And sort of that passion has drawn me to the pursuit of what I call citizen-led projects, which I think we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah. Well, let's jump right into that, actually.
Yeah.
You founded Civic Side.
Yeah. Civic
which
Side.
is basically what you just said. It's a cultivation, a springboard for citizen-led projects.
Yeah.
When did that, where'd you get the idea for that? I know you kind of mentioned it, but a little more depth. And when was that founded?
It started I was in Cleveland, Ohio. And
Were you living there? Or
I was not. No, I was
Okay.
there for a work trip.
Gotcha.
And I was sitting in my hotel room bored reading a Wired magazine. And there's this article about this website called Kickstarter and this concept called crowdfunding.
It must have just been started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just started. And so I'm not sure if your listeners know about crowdfunding, right? But crowdfunding is it's a new way of fundraising.
I think it's become popular enough
Right.
that most people have at least heard of it by now.
Okay,
Yeah.
Great. So I was reading this article on Kickstarter about crowdfunding, and I had this thought that, you mean the college student in Kansas cares about the band in New York cutting a CD that he or she has no connection to,
Right.
right?
Right.
Completely fascinating. And I thought, wow, what an opportunity for communities, right? So if the college student in Kansas cares about the band in New York City, then does Brennan care about the public art mural that wants to be funded just a couple blocks from his house?
Right.
And so after doing some research, we realized that the most successful projects on crowdfunding engines overall were those that involved communities. Were those where people in communities were funding projects that they care about, that they could actually see and touch.
Right.
And so we decided to launch a community-specific crowdfunding website, and we called it Civic Side.
And so it's funded by the citizens, or is it
Funded by the website isn't funded by the citizens, but the projects were,
yeah.
right?
Okay.
So we had, for example, we launched this website. We sent a message. We sent two messages. One, we went to our local government. We said, we want to do this thing. It's going to be called Civic Side. And we're going to be sending a message to the citizens of the community. And that is that you can change the public spaces around you. And with that message comes a risk, because we're asking people to take control over the environment they live in.
Mm-hmm.
And people have this idea that that isn't their job.
Right.
Right? We elect public officials to do that. And so sort of this give and take. So we had to get buy-in from our local government.
Yep.
And we had to send a powerful message to the people. And so we did. And so there are a couple projects that spawned from that. One being Hydrate Lafayette. So we had a runner come to us, and he said, we need drinking water fountains around popular running destinations.
Yep.
So we launched a campaign called Hydrate Lafayette. We had downtown come to us and tell us about a public art installation that they wanted to put in Park Sanssouci. That became the Why Lafayette campaign that everybody's so familiar with.
Yeah.
So we've had some successes, but that was kind of civic side in a nutshell.
Gotcha. So was that some of the first projects? Was the Hydrate Lafayette and Why Lafayette, or was that a couple years in?
That was a couple years in.
Yeah,
The first project was the Parklet, which rest in peace. The Parklet's no longer here.
Now tell me what that one is.
Okay, so basically, a Parklet is sort of an outdoor sitting area. And so there was across from Carpe Diem and Pop's Po' Boys, there was a parking space that we took over, and we built just sort of a sitting area, right? Downtown lacks places for people to sit.
Right.
But let me tell you about the project. It was our very first project. It was a $1,300 project, and excuse me. And we were a little bit nervous putting it out there. So we decided to launch, and it was also the first launch of the website as well.
Big day.
Yeah, big day. In about 4.5 hours, we crowdfunded $1,300 to fund the Parklet.
Awesome.
Yeah. So it was kind of that moment. That was a defining moment for us, because we knew sending that message that I just talked about to the people, that you can change your public spaces, and this is a platform for you to do it. That had been proven true in just 4.5 hours.
It's a good start.
It was a good start, but we knew we had a lot of work ahead.
Yeah. So where have y'all gone since then? What's the difference now? Is there a difference, or you just have more people? You know, I've seen some of the newer projects, which we'll talk about, but what's the big difference now?
Yeah, the difference is Civic Side was a tool that we were giving to the people that we were creating that already existed. So we were spending all this time developing this website and maintaining this website, all the while learning that a couple of things. We were learning that citizen-led projects are difficult.
Yeah.
Right? Citizen-led projects require certain expertise. And citizen-led projects are something that need a layer of accountability. And a crowdfunding website didn't do that. We were also spending our time we wanted to spend our time developing projects. And so we had to rethink the recipe. And we came up with a concept called the 48-hour citizen project.
Yeah.
And we realized that 48 hours was too long, so we changed it to the 24-hour citizen project.
And that's kind of like your magnum opus right now, is the 24-hour project.
Yeah, we're in the process of weaning people off of Civic Side.
Gotcha.
And transitioning them into the concept of the 24-hour citizen project, which the elements between the two are the same, right? You've got a community crowdfunding website. You've got people wanting to pursue projects. You've got people backing projects. You do have a layer of accountability at some point.
Right.
But let me tell you about the 24-hour citizen project.
Yeah, please.
The 24-hour citizen project came from Civic Side. And we realized, we rethought the recipe of how can we make citizen-led projects work? How can we get people to see the community in a different way and activate them to pursue? And we said we needed four things. We needed great ideas. We needed subject matter experts. We needed backers. And we needed an audience of people to cheer them on. So we said, that's what we were going to do. We were going to bring all those people to one place at the same time and throw a giant party in 24 hours. We're going to be sleep deprived, but we're going to have a lot of coffee available.
Right.
And it's an opportunity that's wrapped around a theme of just getting things done. So specifically, Brennan has an idea. He applies to participate in the 24-Hour Citizen Project. It's an annual event.
In the summer?
In the summer,
Yep.
We usually do it the last weekend of July.
Okay.
We compete with vacations, but no one else has anything going on.
Yeah.
And so Brennan has an idea. He applies to participate. So you want to install a bike rack at 4 locations around Lafayette because you are an avid cyclist, and it means a lot to you for you to pull your bike up to Albertsons and have a bike rack.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You apply. We filter the applications. We choose which projects are going to participate. You show up on a Friday at 6 p.m. and with other teams, right? So Brennan, you actually have to form a team.
Okay.
So you can't take on a project by yourself. You have to form a team.
Of course. Yeah.
Right?
Does it matter how many people, or just has to be multiple?
No, we say a minimum of 5.
Okay.
You show up on a Friday at 6 p.m. and we have paired you with subject matter experts and public officials to sort of bring your idea forward. So you have the opportunity to sit during, and it's a very casual atmosphere.
Right.
You have the opportunity to sit across the table drinking a beer with your city councilman, right? With your public works director, with your mayor, with, the lead architect in town, because you're trying to build something cool.
Right.
And also maybe the businesses that you've targeted where you want to put your bike rack. So we stay up super late, working on projects. And then Saturday morning comes around, you practice a pitch. And then Saturday night, we invite the entire community to come and cheer all of the teams on as they pitch their project with hopes of get funding. So at the end, it's kind of got this Shark Tank feel. Because we have backers up there and they're drilling you with questions, but it's super fun. And, it sounds a little bit stale to say that this is a pitch event. But I think if you talk to the teams, they'll tell you that it's more of an experience than an event. And so that's what I think we're most proud of.
So the 24-hour deadline, I mean, you find it to where that's the way to get things done. With these citizen-led projects, if you hadn't had that kind of hard deadline, that it would just be an idea that kind of never became something, right?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you a secret.
Okay.
So
I do have to warn you, this will be heard by other people. I know the mics are here, but
it's not a huge cat out the back. Don't worry. So we begin prepping projects well in advance of the 24 hours,
mm-hmm.
and the projects, if funded, still have a lot of work to do when they leave the 24-hour citizen project. Right. So 24 hours is sort of just like this boot camp of like filling you with so much community that you don't even know what to think. That's what it's about.
Right.
And so what we're finding too, it's interesting, is after the event, there's sort of this byproduct of like, you've given yourself to the community. Right. Just in life in general. Anytime we do this thing, this sacrificial giving thing, we get things back. And that's what pursuing these projects do for the teams. Right. So I give myself during the Hydrate Lafayette campaign. I work tirelessly to install these drinking water fountains. And now, because of that giving, I see my community in a different light than I've never seen them before.
Of course. When was the Hydrate Lafayette campaign? When did that happen?
Oh gosh,
I want
to say it was 2 years ago, but it was probably more like 4.
I think it was more 4 because I remember, I forget what it's called, Shelby or Shelly, whatever the circle that they all run around behind Reds.
Yeah,
I remember when some a fountain and whatnot opened there, and everyone was super excited.
Yes.
One of those classic loops that everyone does.
Yeah.
You have a lot of ideas yourself. But you're working on so many or helping people launch their own projects. Do you ever feel like you have a project that you wanted to get done, you haven't been able to?
I don't know if I call myself an idea guy. The second that I think that I'm an idea guy, I'm proven wrong. So to be honest, I think the 24-hour Citizen Project limits me personally. It limits me to one thing, and it allows me to just pursue.
And that's a good thing.
And that's a good thing for me right now. Yeah, you don't want me to think outside of this trajectory that we're on. Right?
You're excellent at doing one thing really well.
Yeah, I wouldn't say really well. I mean, we're doing one thing, and we're constantly learning. And then the more we learn, the less we feel like we know. But yeah, personally, I feel like I sort of have to be focused, and this is my focus.
Yeah,
and it was also created selfishly as an outlet for me, because I travel for work. So I manage clinical trials for a living. So I'm gone 60% of the time. So about 4 years ago, I felt like I was disconnected from Lafayette.
Because you were gone 60% of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like my contribution was to launch a crowdfunding website that I could build and maintain when I'm sitting in Milwaukee.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
that's smart though. I mean, it allows you to stay connected even though your job takes you elsewhere.
Yeah. And
I mean, I love the 24-hour concept, right? I mean, I come from the film industry and we have 24-hour film projects every year. And just, when you say it's just about getting stuff done, I like that concept because especially in the film industry and anything you're doing like that, you can talk and talk and talk and you want to make it happen. And then you have 24 hours to actually do it.
Yeah.
Which is a fun thing, and it's a good challenge. And you're not going to have a finished product after 24 hours.
Yeah.
But you will have a springboard that you would not have had if you hadn't had that hard deadline.
Exactly. There's this notion that whatever we pursue, it has to be perfect.
Yeah, that's my problem.
Yeah, right?
Sometimes I'll just not do it because I know it won't be perfect in the end, and it's a mistake.
It's a mistake.
I'm working on myself.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so there is value in pursuing something, knowing that you're just going to be messy.
Yeah.
So the 48-hour film prize is a great example, right? So you show up, you draw a genre, and you go make a film with your buddies, and you drink Red Bull all weekend long.
Yeah.
And your product isn't perfect.
No.
But you've made a product.
Far from it.
And it feels good, right?
It does. It feels really good to have, especially because it's such a short time frame,
right.
Yeah, they have the 48 and now they open up the 24 as well.
They have the 24.
They did. They did open up the 20. Now the 48's a lot more popular. It's a little more familiar with the film industry, but they do have a 24 now.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know if it's the same company or if it's a different one, but yeah. But anyway, no, and it feels good to have completed something.
Yeah.
Something you're passionate about, and there's always something good in it. There's signs of life in it. So it's just like, all right, now I can go and, finesse it a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's, I'm assuming, the same concept with you guys.
It is. I mean, and it's interesting because the feedback we get from the event is always, Butch, we could have $100,000 in funding going towards these projects. We could have $50,000 projects. And so our organization is faced with the questions like, do we really want to go that big, right? Because these are micro projects to an extent. And so there is some sort of value in saying like, this is just a pilot phase. I mean, so anyway, it's going to be difficult to stay small if there's an opportunity to go big.
Right.
But I think of pursuing a $5,000 project as a citizen that has a full-time job is very different than pursuing a $50,000 project.
Yeah, I mean, it almost seems like you go too big, like people wouldn't be able to even maintain their work and all that. And it just is, you have to dedicate a lot of time to make a $50,000 project work.
Yes.
So I totally get where you're coming from.
Yes.
Let's talk about last year's. Y'all had some, is that the bus shelter one? There was a couple I saw on the website.
That was 2 years ago.
2 years ago. I enjoyed seeing that one as well. That was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what was the idea? Just that one of our problems that we have we have very few covered bus shelters, and the ones that are look not appealing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think I think we have 100 something bus stops, right, in Lafayette. Maybe, something like that. And there was all of this activity on social media about people sitting, right? So we're in southern Louisiana, right? It rains during the summertime.
Right.
If you need to ride the bus, and you're at a bus stop that doesn't have shelter in the middle of July, you're going to be soaking wet by the time the bus gets there.
Right.
And so people really cared about that. So we had a project come in 2016 and pitch the idea of installing a bus stop shelter that was actually affordable. So I think the typical bus stop shelter, even the ones that we see, are like $15,000, $20,000 designs. And this team came up with a $5,000 design. And so it became this proof of concept project where if we could install one bus stop for $5,000, then the $1 million problem becomes a couple $100,000 problem, right? And so I think that project's coming along. The design has since changed,
Of course,
and you know there's a whole nother team behind it. But I'm hopeful that it's going to happen because I think that would be a great impact on the community.
Yeah, well, I think that the government's interested just because like last podcast with Kate Durio, we talked a lot about public transportation. I didn't expect us to talk so much about public transportation, but we like
really you had Kate Durio on your show.
I did, yeah, yeah, right, and. Man, we talked so long about that, and it was awesome though because I learned a lot, and we just kind of like threw out ideas, and I think the bus, changing the bus shelters and that kind of thing was one of the main ones. So
yeah,
it's a good initiative for sure.
Yeah.
These people that are competing, do you want to call it a competition?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, yeah,
go for it.
For the 24-hour Citizen Project, these are all just, like none of them are. They're just people with jobs, right? I mean, like they're not part of the government. They're not leaders in that kind of thing. They're just people with an idea that also have another job that they're just doing this on the side.
Yeah, it could be the leaders in the community, but it could also be those people that are completely disconnected from their community and they see an opportunity to engage and just go for it. So the concept is really built for those people. It's something for someone to come to and they can admit, they could say, I want to do this thing, but I have no idea how to make it happen.
Right.
And we thrust them into this concept, into this process, and they come out a shining citizen in love with their community. And so that's really what it is. It's for everyone. It's not just for the leaders of the community. And so that's actually something we're very, very passionate about.
Yeah. So where do you see it going in the next 5-10 years?
I don't know. It's funny. I think about our 2016 event, which was the first time we launched the event. And I think at the end we had the entire 24 hours was open to the public.
Mm. Now, where is it held?
Okay, so the first year was at the Warehouse 535. Second year was at Tesh Drugs. And the concept was for the location is to identify a location that no one, or identify a place that no one has seen before, right? So maybe like find an abandoned warehouse and turn it into a usable space.
Gotcha.
That's the ambitious idea. Whether it works out that way, I don't really know. But we took it. The 2017 event was at Tesh Drugs, and it was an open space for rent. And we went to Ross Fontenot and we said we really, really want to turn this space into something cool. And he said great, and so he gave us the space. But I think about the 2016 event. It was open to the public the entire 24 hours. And I think at the end of it, when we announced the winners, it might have been 25 people in the audience.
Yeah.
But it was still magical. Like,
right.
There was this Cinderella project with a 16-year-old kid that wanted to pursue a graffiti wall in town. And so the crowds, he wasn't selected by the backers, but the crowd started funding his project one by one.
Because they liked it.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, exactly. So it kind of has this community feel. And then year 2, we had probably 200 people in the audience.
Wow.
150 to 200 people in the audience. And so I don't know where it's going. I do know that we've created an avenue for citizens that they currently don't have, and it's an avenue that's important. And, I think it would be a shame if we didn't share that with other cities.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the direction we might go after year 3. Because you start a thing and you develop a process and you realize part of the process sucks, part of the process is good, and you toss out the things that suck and you further develop the
good ones.
the good one,
Yeah.
right? And then you add things to it, and then all of a sudden you come out maybe year 3 with a recipe that really works. And so that's kind of where we're at.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, like you said, though, it's that tightrope walk of keeping it just small enough and not too big, but allowing yourself to expand. But not maybe having citizens working on $50,000 projects.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like you could get to that point.
Maybe.
It's not. I feel like you're one of those guys who's not willing to rule out anything. It's just. It seems crazy now, but who knows? A couple years down the road, it may seem a lot more feasible.
Maybe so. I mean, we're the commitment that we've all made is that we have to be open to whatever the people want and whatever works.
Yeah.
And so we can't go into a process and just pretend like our way is better. So the other thing too is like not even the size of the projects, but the size of the venue. So we send, the boring feedback survey you get after events.
Of course.
Okay. I hate filling. I actually never fill it out.
They're important though.
I think only like 21 people filled out the survey of like, the 150, 200 people that were there.
Yeah.
But everyone said the venue was way too small. And I thought, interesting. The venue is too small. But let's say we got a bigger venue. Then all of a sudden you're not rubbing shoulders with your neighborhood.
Right.
With your neighbors. And so there was sort of a town hall feel. And we, aside from being in a bar with, friends or at a really crowded restaurant or at some other event, we don't get to like really rub shoulders with each other in like a tight way, cheering on people in the community.
Right.
So sorry, not sorry, but I say we keep it small.
Yeah, I understand that. What are some of the problems that you see around Lafayette that you would like to see changed? Not necessarily you taking an initiative and like installing new bus shelters, but like what are just some things that you see? I mean, you travel a lot, right? So you see a lot of cities that have good and bad things. What are some of the things that you go, that we could do that? And why aren't we?
Brennan, I have no idea. I am, okay, I'll give you a couple. I would love to turn the coulee into a bike path. I'd love to install a jogging trail along the side of the Vermilion River. You see why I don't try and pursue
some pretty complicated
outside the 24-hour citizen project. I mean, those are the things I think are cool. I mean, I don't know. I see this place as a wonderful place to live. And I am going to leave the solutions up to people much smarter than me.
Yeah.
And tell them that they have a platform of the 24-hour citizen project to pitch that solution. So I try and stay away from like viewing this space as one that could be fixed by me, and instead of viewing this space as a place that I could activate people to pursue the ideas that they want to pursue.
I know you have this project now, so you have to be a little diplomatic, but what are some of your favorite places to eat in Lafayette?
Oh boy. So my sister is a chef.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so she started out at Social, then she moved to St. Street Inn, and and now she's in New Orleans, and we're working really hard to get her back.
Where is she in New Orleans?
She's at a market called Simone's Market. They do pre-prepared foods.
I don't think I've ever heard
sandwiches.
of that place. Okay.
Oh, you're missing out. It's right on Oak Street. It's great.
Okay, cool.
But so I'm sort of a junkie to wherever my sister works.
Yeah, I understand that.
But I I love a Judy Sin hamburger. I love a Pops Po' Boy. I love the 5 boroughs off the menu drink at Pamplona. Tsunami on Tuesday nights is my go-to. Dwyer's Sunday after church. Gosh.
The best.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess I could go on for days.
Are you a downtown kind of guy? Do you enjoy going downtown?
I don't know. Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are people in town that brand people by downtown guy. Like, oh, that's a downtown girl guy.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to.
It might
label.
be the older generation, not to knock them, but like,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Butch is a downtown guy.
Well, it'll probably change. I'm still at the generation where a lot of my friends are still out. In their college days, so they're still going. I'm sure when everyone comes back, if they do, we'll turn into that. We'll be like, oh yeah, he's going down. Yeah, of course.
I mean, I guess I believe in a city center.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere that I've traveled, the suburbs are the suburbs, and they're great. But I feel like Lafayette is is sort of a burb of nothing, right? And so I believe that the downtown is the core of Lafayette and the greatest opportunity.
I agree.
Yeah. Good.
Is there anything that I left out you want to talk about?
Man, I don't think so.
Let's talk a little bit about so the next 24-hour project, if people wanted to apply for that, if they have an idea, where do they go and when do they need to apply by?
Yeah, so we're working on the timelines.
Yeah.
But usually around mid-March, April 1st. We open up the applications for ideas. And it's this wild and crazy push for like 2.5 months of trying to make people believe that they have great ideas and like this is a place where you can pursue them.
Yeah, right.
It is the hardest, it's the easiest message to send out there, but the hardest message to convince people that can actually happen.
Right.
Fortunately, we have examples, right? Teams that have gone through the process. And so they could really...
Right. It's not the first year. You can actually have people vouch and see projects.
I think year 3 will be...
It'd be awesome.
It'll be better. Yeah. So we open up applications for ideas around mid-March or April. The event is at the end of July. And so if you don't have an idea and you're not a citizen team, there's an opportunity to volunteer your time as a subject matter expert.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So imagine, we didn't talk about this.
No, let's
I know we're wrapping up.
No, we got all the time. You tell me, talk about it.
Okay, great. But there is this idea that like, if you can't give yourself because you're not an idea guy, right? Then maybe you're not a citizen team, or at least a team lead. If you're not a big money guy, maybe you're not a backer. But there's a talent that every single person in this community has that they can give to someone that has an idea. And so imagine for a second if you went on a website and you had a giant roster of people.
Just experts in their field?
Experts in their field. And it was basically, them signing up saying, look, I'll give a couple of hours of my time on a weekend, to a team wanting to do something cool in the community. So the term expert may be a little bit misleading, but anyone can be an expert.
Right.
So we've got teams around April 1st. We've got experts that we recruit all year long. And we've got backers.
So what kind of, is it literally any field just because you want to have them just in case an idea
just in case? Yeah.
So it could be anything, creative, construction,
right?
Whatever.
Yeah. Electrician. It could be a plumber. Yeah. It could be an architect. It could be, a landscaper. It could be someone who's just very critical. It could be someone who's, overly positive about we could bring a lot of people into the fold during the 24 hours, and it's a great time too.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to recap, the deadline or whenever you'll open up application will be somewhere around March, April.
Yes.
The actual event is the last week in July.
Yep.
And that'll be announced on Civic Side's Facebook page and website.
Yeah.
So if people want to find y'all, it's just civicside.com.
Civicside.com for now. In about 3 weeks, we are going to the 24hourcitizenproject.com and we are ditching Civic Side.
Gotcha.
It's sad, but we have to move forward.
Understand, man. As you said, by year 3, you start to find out what you really are, and you learn, and so now you run with that.
Exactly.
Awesome, man. All right, is there anything else?
Man, that's it.
It was such a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, thank you, Brennan. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks, dude.
Appreciate it. Best of luck to you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Sheauxtime. The podcast is sponsored by no one. Well, not yet at least, but it could be you or your business. So if you know someone, or if you are interested in sponsoring this podcast, get in touch with me. SheauxtimePodcast@gmail.com. Sheauxtime spelled SHEAUX time podcast. Also, if you're enjoying the podcast, one of the ways you can really help me out is by making sure you're subscribed to it on iTunes or whatever podcast app you use. It's free and super easy to do, but it helps us out a ton. And if you're really enjoying the podcast, you can leave us a review or a rating on iTunes and on Facebook. It really only takes about 15 seconds. Here, go ahead and do it. I'll wait. Did you do it yet?